Hello, everyone. Are you live over there?
Hopefully we're live.
Hopefully, we're live. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our Tricky Thursday Live. We do this once a month. Myself, Trisha from Creative Costume Academy, and Miss Charlotta from Charlotta Pattern Cutting School. If you're seeing us, please do us a huge favor. Click the like button because it tells YouTube you like us. It will push it out to more people. We really appreciate that. And if you're new to my channel, our channel, my name is Trisha. I am your pattern nerd friend. I love talking about all things pattern making. We just hosted our first ever Pattern Con, which we can talk about in a second, in-person gathering of pattern nerds. And I also have an online membership where I teach pattern making as well. And this is Miss Charlotta.
Hello, yes, I'm Charlotta. I like Trisha. I'm a pattern cutter. I'm also a designer. She's, of course, a costume designer, which is a little bit different. We're both passionate about pattern cutting. I was very sorry to miss your amazing event recently. And like Trisha, you can learn with me both online. There's my pattern cutting school, which is you can join the wait list for the membership, which opens in September in my description. And you can also find out more about Trisha. And you can also learn live with me in Ipswich, Suffolk, the UK. So wherever you like, we are here to help you learn to pattern cut and make clothes you'll love from slightly different sort of perspectives. But I think we share some students, and some students are more me, some students are more you. I quite love it. It's a sort of crossover.
Yes. Okay.
And today our topic, shall we tell people what we're going to talk about, and then talk a little bit about PatternCon, because I would like to hear.
Sure. Also, can we get feedback about our sound? Sandra's saying Charlotta's volume was low on Trisha's channel. I've just increased the volume. Is that better, Sandra? We're always trying. It's hard for us to test the sound when we're not on. So
we did actually try to test it today, because last time it was really bad on my end. So please, in my chat, if you let me know as well.
Let us know.
Working.
But let's talk about what our subject is today. I think it's a good one. Charlotta most of the time comes up as a subject, just so you know, because I'm like, what are we talking about?
So you can play me as well if anything isn't to your liking. And I need to quickly check. I'm actually live on mine. Yes, I'm working as well. So that is great. So most of the topics I actually suggest is because something I'm doing at the moment. And I recently did a sewing project, which were not my favorite. Probably not the worst, but not the best. So I thought that would be a really nice topic, because I'm sure you've all done something you've hated, or sometimes if you even hear about a project, your heart sinks. And sometimes the outcome can be fantastic, but you know it's going to be a really painful process. And other time you just know the outcome isn't going to be that amazing either. It's just going to be exactly how it was before, maybe, but it's going to be such a pain. So we're going to talk about that, and maybe also a little bit about how you can make it a little bit better when you're working on a project you don't like. And on my end, it says that I sound good and Trisha is a little bit muted. So I'm going to
pump me up.
Turn up Trisha.
Is it better? Do we hear Charlotta okay on my channel, you guys? Let me know. Charlotta's Viennette trousers skirt was amazing. Alice was a fan of that. So I saw that too. That was really cool.
I find it fascinating. You know, like me, like we're always doing stuff, and sometimes stuff really hits a nerve and people seem to love it, and other stuff we might be really passionate about it. People just
not so into
up their style. So but I think the Viennette trousers are universally amazing. I don't think you can
okay.
If you haven't seen them. There's actually a 3-part YouTube tutorial, which is fully accessible. I do everything, a full drafting tutorial, and you can use any pair of trousers you have to do with sewing patterns or block. But it's basically a pair of palazzo pants from the front.
Yeah, it's like a reverse skirt. It's awesome.
Yes, but then the great thing is underneath it's basically got the trousers wrapping around. So it's 3 layers I don't know if you can see it. There's another layer there. And the whole
Wow.
thing is basically a circle.
So
It looks
cool.
beautiful, the pattern piece.
Very, very cool.
And sound is now great at my end. So
On
both
your
sides.
end. And
And
then
yours,
Alice said that Charlotta's okay, hearing you both good, Victoria says on our end.
Perfect.
So thank you guys
Great.
for that feedback. We appreciate it. So yeah, we're going to
before
talk
we
about...
talk about things we hate, let's talk about things we love. PatternCon.
So PatternCon was my brainchild. It was the first ever in-person event completely dedicated to pattern making and fitting. We had over 250 people come together with us in Charlotte, North Carolina. As you can tell, I talked a lot. I'm still kind of recovering, but we've got to move on to other things. It was the kickoff to a busy season, but we had 17 teachers and we offered 36 classes over the weekend. It was a full day on Saturday and a half day on Sunday. Well, we went till 2:00 on Sunday. We had 3 keynote speakers. One was the wonderful Mimi G, and then we had the amazing Kenneth King, and then we had Aronica B. Cole, who stole the show, really. And honestly, it turned out, where can we get the pattern for those pants? Betty's asking. Charlotta teaches how to draft those pants on her YouTube channel, right? You have a couple, 3 videos you said, YouTube.
Yeah. I'll put in the chat.
She's going to try to drop it in the chat. And I'm sorry, my lawn people just showed up. Of course, perfect timing for us. So I'm sorry if you hear them, or my very wanting to be involved little pup, Levi. You might hear him barking as well. But yeah, honestly, it was even better than I had hoped, because I really wanted this to be for everyone. Hold on.
Why am I losing?
I really wanted this to be for everyone. I wanted it for, everyone to feel like this space was for them, that they could learn pattern making and fitting as well. And we had such diversity in that room. We had, different genders, different ages, different nationalities, different backgrounds, all different body types. And that was my big thing, was inclusivity and for community. And I really feel like we got that. And from the feedback that we're hearing from people, I feel like a lot of people felt the same way too. It was just a big old party love fest where we got to learn about pattern making. There were lots of prizes. We had a little game show. We crowned a pattern master, which our lovely Jennifer Stern was pattern master for PatternCon 2025. So her name will be engraved on our special weight belt, and she got a little trophy to take home. So that was just making pattern making fun, and making it accessible to everyone. It was a lot of work, but the feedback was great, and we're already planning for next year. Next year we'll be in Atlanta, and we are gathering all of the details that we'll be announcing hopefully very soon.
I think it took over a year to organize, didn't it? I remember more.
I've been talking about it for a few years now, and but I didn't officially start putting real plans in place until January of this year. So that's why we're trying to get a little bit ahead of it. I would have liked to have started last year, but I was talking about it. I was doing YouTube videos about it, and this has been something I've been working on for several years. So, but actually, like, things put into place, like actual dates and days and booking the hotel and all of that, started January of this year. But yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, but it sounds like your planning really paid off, and it's
for sure.
It's worth doing it, especially for the first event. You need to hit it right, and it sounds
I think so. I mean, what do you guys think in the chat? Let us know. PatternCon was amazing. I'm hearing a lot of good. Hi, Ellen, good to see you. And Aronica hit it out of the park. Yeah, she really did. She really embodied what I was hoping that PatternCon would, and I just, it just really, everybody, so many people came up and thanked me for organizing it, and It was a lot. I learned a lot, and hopefully, we'll make improvements. I know most of you guys who went got a survey, and we'll be looking at those and always trying to get improvement. But I feel like we set the bar high right out the gate. So definitely. Total planning nirvana. So good. Sandra said, your heart and passion for pattern making showed, which is great, which, I don't call myself a pattern nerd for no reason. And to everyone, I know some of you guys who are here already know, just another thing that's a little bit timely as we're talking today. My online membership is only open twice a year. We do a big lead up. We do a big boot camp. It sounds like we're going to be launching around the same time. Maybe.
I think you're maybe a little bit behind after me. So
okay. Okay.
Try both.
Yeah. But we do that for our main open doors, which will happen at the end of September. The middle of September. But we do a pre-sale to everyone who's like, I don't need to hear more about it. I just want in. So if you were at PatternCon, you had a great time, and you want to keep that community going and want to continue to be supported throughout the year, definitely join us for the pre-sale, because we do offer special discounts that we don't offer later, because this is just sign me up. The only way to get access to the pre-sale is to sign up for our wait list, which is located down below the link to sign up there. So we would really love to have you in our special community. And then we will be doing our boot camp, our signature Fitabulous Fit boot camp, in September, in a couple of weeks. Hopefully I have a voice again. I am actually re-recording all of those videos right now. So because I know that the video quality, I hadn't recorded them for a couple of years and they needed to be improved. So I just watched the first one today, come back from the video editor, and it was amazing. I'm like, yeah, so much better. So for those of you who've joined the boot camp in the past, you have that to look forward to. We're gonna have a whole new set of videos going through, which hopefully will be easier to watch, easier to see, easier to follow along, and still bringing the fun and the pattern party for sure. But yeah, it was amazing. And Charlotta, I would love to get you over here at some point. One day we're gonna figure it out, but so we can meet in person. Or I just might need to go to England and track you down.
Yes. And I think this pattern cut, I think sewing in general is like a really nice community anyway, but I think pattern cutting especially, because it's such a niche.
It's such a niche for sure.
A pattern cutter I don't like. So I think if you have the sort of same interest,
it's true.
It's such a nerdy thing.
We're just good people.
Yes. Oh, wonderful, superb.
We're the best kind of sewing niche. Just kidding. Hi, Michelle. Michelle Renee said PatternCon was awesome. She got in like right at the last moment and even won the prize with Mimi G to have a one-on-one. So look out for an email, Michelle. We're working that out with Mimi, the best way to organize that. So
yeah, and I've got love for PatternCon on my chat as well.
Yay.
Jules, so,
Yay, PatternCon. It's for everybody who loves pattern making and fitting. And honestly, the big thing, I mean, we won't get too much into this. We'll go into our subject, but it just, there's a lot that's offered out there for quilting, and other handcrafts, but there just really isn't a lot focused on garment sewing. And when there is focus on garment sewing, it's not often a lot focused on fitting or the pattern making side of it. And that was really kind of my drive for creating PatternCon, is to give us a place to focus on. There's so much that happens before you sit down at the sewing machine to ensure that success, and we don't ever talk about it or learn about it. So that's what I know you and I talk a lot about and help people with in our memberships and on our YouTube channels. But I wanted a place for us to do, because it's so hard to do in a virtual setting certain things, and for us to actually come together, see it, and then also connect the community. The community was a big aspect of it as well, just bringing us all together to celebrate this together. And I honestly, I'm like still tearing up reading comments and emails from people, and it just was everything I was hoping it would be and more. So
yeah, it sounds fantastic. Yeah, because we've got a knitting and stitching show and stuff like here, but nothing specific for us.
Right. And it's so important and it's so powerful, and it's like, why don't we have this more attention and make it available to people?
I also think it's perfect for even learning. I think like sewing, you really like ideally you have a one-to-one teacher. You would have had your grandma or your mum teaching you, or
Right.
in fashion school, and then you just have to practice yourself. But I think pattern cutting is one of those skills which actually works perfectly either online, because it's actually easier online,
Yeah.
or works perfect in a live setting because you don't need all the machines. You can concentrate on the
Right.
task. You can easily copy and work along with it as well, which you can't do with a lot of other things. So I think it's like a real skill you can learn from a teacher, or something like other skills you just have to try and get wrong and do
get your
again.
hand-eye coordination to
Okay.
work. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
And Beth, I'm so
So
glad that you left PatternCon. I can't wait to see you next year. That's awesome. So let's talk about what we don't like. We like PatternCon. We like the boot camp. We like pattern cutting. What don't we like? And please, we love.
saying we're just not pattern cutting.
If you're not a huge, if you haven't been here with us before for our chats, we do. This is not us talking to you. This is us talking with you. So please share your things that you're not a fan of in the chat.
Before we talk about the stuff or the projects we hate, can you put in the chat like your worst doing project or something you hate doing, or if somebody else asks you to do a project you just know you won't like, you will do it but you won't like it? Can you put in the chat?
Yes.
You talk sort of, but I would love to see what you hate.
What people's
I have a suspicion that there's a certain thing a lot of us don't like doing.
Yeah.
And I would love to know whether I'm right or not.
And really quick, Lisa K says, for those of us who couldn't make it, what did we miss out on? And if you're asking about PatternCon, I just kind of gave a quick overview, but if you're on Instagram at all, or I actually have several lives that I've done discussing what PatternCon was and what we put together. And on Instagram, pattern.con, C-O-N, there is a lot of reels and pictures and things that we're sharing, as well as my account, Creative Costume Academy. So just to pass that on. We're getting a lot of things. Beth hates hemming. Janice says, I don't like the cutting out phase. Amen, Janice. I think that's my least favorite part as well. Betty says, I don't like fractions. Sandra says, binding small corners. Lisa K says, replacing zippers. Just no, replacing zippers. So that's what I'm getting over here.
So that's interesting, because I'm wait a bit longer on mine. I was gonna say one thing we probably all hate is like alterations on, especially like I don't mind alterations on my own clothes I've made. Actually, I've got hemming here as well. But I absolutely hate alterations on ready-made clothing. So it would be like replacing zippers, altering a fit. One of the reasons which made me think of a topic, because somebody asked me to change a ready-made dress into a separate skirt and top recently, and I did it because I like them. But just
lucky them.
I like them. I did it otherwise I would just know. But it's like the unpicking of all the overlocking, and then the stitching. I think it took me longer to unpick it than to actually change it into a new garment.
The unpicking. I think we can all agree, don't we hate unpicking things?
Yes.
Unsewing.
I think we're both the same. We make our clothes. We make them so they're really easy to unpick.
Right.
Rather than
make them easily adjustable.
Overlocking. Like, why?
Yeah. I've got some more buttonholes and marking them from Andrea. And Alice says, I used to hate finishing a wearable project. I would just shut down my love of sewing for months. Oh, like it would just make you not want to sew at all. Oh, yeah, that's so disappointing. Sheila says she doesn't like to do the mock-up, but you're so good when you actually do them, but I get it. Trying to fit a new pattern by myself. Taking in side seams on trousers because pockets. So true. Unless you build it in a way to make it easier. Kristen says, cutting because those 1 hour projects can take me 3 hours to cut. Yeah, the cutting is my least favorite. And there's no going back with the cutting. Like, you can do the pattern making, and if you cut something on accident, you can tape it back on. When you do sewing, you can unstitch it, and then once you cut something, I get it. Like, there's so much pressure.
Yes. And also just takes ages to like lay because anything you go wrong,
to lay it out.
It's so annoying. So just laying out the fabric.
Yes.
It's like
Yes. I could honestly, even the sewing sometimes isn't my favorite. Like I just want to make the pattern.
Yeah, I was gonna say
pass it to somebody else to cut and sew it.
Yeah. And I've got Jules is saying my first bodice sloper I learned from Trisha's class was a disaster. I learned a bunch of uncomfortable, scary things at first. Now I have a sloper that fits and confidence to do more. And actually, I used to hate, especially like even professionals as such. And when I started out, fitting used to scare me because it's like so different each time. And you learn like the basics, but when you're actually in real life and suddenly it's not quite how the books described it or how your teacher described it, that used to scare me because anything else you can sort of learn again, but it got differently. But fitting is something where you, in a way, you have to learn it by doing, I think, over and over again.
Yes, absolutely. The best way to learn about fitting is to do more fittings. And on more people, because that's how you learn. You're training your eye and your brain to all those things that you've read about and heard about and seen examples of and applying it in real time. And seeing
like balance. Like balance doesn't make sense until you've seen it on lots of people.
Right.
It's like,
right. Lisa K says, I'd rather make anything from scratch than to repair or alter a garment. And I agree with you on that, Lisa, but from my costume background, so here's how I used to describe alterations. That it's like if a painter painted a portrait, right? It's like you're asking someone to go in, take a portrait that already exists and go in there and like change it to be something else instead of just starting with a blank canvas and getting to paint your own picture from the beginning. And so, but I will tell you, I have learned a lot from doing alterations. Like you really learn how things are put together. You learn how you don't want to do things, how you do want to do things for yourself to make it easier later on. But yeah, alterations are not my favorite.
Yeah,
either.
I think alterations one of those projects where it's not fun doing it, but you actually learn something useful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think mending is probably a bit more like I'm gonna use a
mending. Yes.
We recently had a damp mark that big on one of our walls, and they had to rip out all the plaster in the whole room.
Oh my goodness!
Dust. Everything had to be covered. It cost a fortune, and it looks exactly the same as before. And that's how mending sometimes can be.
Right?
It's not work to make it look perfect again.
To make it look like nothing. But the thing that's cool about our craft is that we can do those things. We can be more sustainable. Like I've had this pair of overalls I was just wearing actually the other day, and I have a patch on one cheek because I started to wear a hole in it because they're one of my favorites and I've worn them a lot. And then just the other day I got a rip in the other side. So I'm sad, but they're some of my favorite pants and I will be going in and mending them. When? I don't know, but I want to keep them. And the fact that we can do that and prolong that life, or if it's so far gone, you can copy off the pattern and make a new one. Like that is the cool thing about what we can do.
And I don't mind mending when it's sort of visible mending and you make it like a feature.
Right.
What I hate is the mending like knitted jumpers and you're mending it by hand.
Oh yeah.
If anybody has ever tried it, you're probably better than me, but it's just not fun to do it all. It never looks perfect.
Never, yeah. That's the hardest part. People who do alterations well, it is a craft for sure to make it look like it was never adjusted, like the people who tore apart your wall. That's an art in itself. And then Victoria is saying, I had to lengthen the crotch for the first time. Hope that doesn't happen again anytime soon. And Carrie's saying hand sewing is the 4-letter word. Which I know a lot of people
might get some
agree with.
I think we have actually hand sewing, I think it's like 50-50.
Yeah.
Some people love it.
Beth is in agreement with Carrie.
I don't mind it, some people hate it.
I hate ironing yards of fabric after I wash it. Yes.
That's actually, I had ironing here as well and washing fabric as well.
And Ellen says mock-ups, even though I know they are necessary, wish we could just sew the thing. I mean, you can, it just might not turn out how you want it to. So I get it. I actually love mock-ups because there's no stress. It's like I could sew it badly, I could use bad thread, like the wrong color thread. If I don't match my seams correct, like I could just throw it together quickly, and I'm not worried about it at all. Is how I feel about one. But I
I was
get it.
thinking, my favorite part is figuring it out.
Yeah,
I think that's just the most fun part.
yeah,
And then I like pattern cutting, same as you. I'm definitely not a fan of cutting out the pattern in paper or in fabric. And even sewing, I don't mind, like mock-up sewing is fun, it's fast.
right.
And even like special project stitch sewing is fun. But what I hate is when you sort of agree to do like a small production. You probably do it more than me, but when you like stitching and it's like lots of steps and it's like all the same, and it's just like
You can get really fast. Like when I made Blue Man costumes. So for Blue Man, what we used to make is the band costume. Actually, I did make a few Blue Man. They just were all black. It's more about them being blue. And there's this weird, interesting thing that they have to have on the actual Blue Men. But the Blue Man costumes are kind of boring. So we did the band costumes. So the guys that are like playing on the drums behind them, they had a lot of applique, and there was a special way they were built. So that's what we used to do for all of the shows and the touring shows around. And so it was like making 22 of the same thing over and over. And we do that a lot in costuming. If you have multiples of something, it's actually easier because then once you figure out the pattern, you figure out how you're going to sew it, then I can pass that on to other people. And as you can production line sew things, right? Like I'm going to sew all the fronts, then I'm going to sew all the backs, then I'm going to sew all the shoulders together, then I'm going to do all the appliques. Like, it takes forever, like days to get done, but you get really good, like for factory sewing, you get really fast at those specific steps. So it actually, over time, it goes a lot faster than if you're like, I'm going to sew this one, then I'm going to sew this, and like do all the steps, then I'm going to sew this one. Because you're changing, the different things that you're using to create those things. But yeah, I can get mind numbing and boring for sure.
Yeah, I think it's like also like if it goes up to a certain amount, then you can do it really quickly and you learn, you get better and better. Well, I hate if you do 2 or 3 of something and you just, because that way you're still figuring out.
Right.
But you're not at that automatic, I'm just doing it and I know how it works.
Right, true.
Stage. But what you can do, of course, when you now to make it a little bit easier, not just to moan, if you ever approach something new, think about what you've made before, which is similar, and like especially if you make sewing patterns now, like teaching it, like if you read the instructions, they're so complicated. Trisha and I don't follow really sewing instructions.
Oh, really?
And just think back of something you've made which is similar, and that way in a way you're copying that rather than trying to figure it out exactly. And go back, I look at the clothes I've made when I think, oh yeah, that's exactly the order I did it and stuff. It's a bit like looking at altering clothes, isn't it? You work out how it's made and it'll make what you're making now easier. So rather than looking at lots of pages of instructions, go back to a pair of trousers you own and look how the zipper was put in there, isn't it? Or how you put it in last time.
I think that you kind of develop your own, like I have a certain way I like to do welt pockets. I have a certain way I like to put in that front trouser zipper, and you can come up with that. Lisa's sharing something. A lot of people are in agreement with us about laying out patterns and cutting and ironing yardage. Alice says that she loves the challenge of altering to fit, but mending is boring. Lisa says she had a brand new knit zip sweater. Cat jumped on my back because he thought we were playing a game. All those nail holes in my brand new sweater, just put paw print embroidered appliques over it and it was saved.
Oh, that's lovely. No, that's great.
Yeah, that's lovely. And that's the thing. That's what we used to say. And because a lot of times in theater, when we're doing costumes, it's people think that we make everything from scratch. Now that would be ideal, but we don't always have the time or the budget for that. So a lot of our stuff is ready to wear that we alter or adjust to make into something unique. And so you're always trying to make it look like this thing was always meant to be made that way. Mistaken to design, we call it. So yeah, we play that game a lot. And if something messes up, I will say this, I mentioned it at some point during this weekend, I told somebody, but be careful who you tell, about the cat jumping on your back, because somebody, like, I used to tell my mom, of course, when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, these didn't work. I need to add more, but I don't have the right fabric or whatever. And I would come up with a solution for it. And then we'd be out at an event and somebody would compliment me on what I was wearing. And I would say, oh, thank you. And then my mom would spill all my secrets. She was like, well, actually, it was supposed to not be that way. And then I'm like, Mom, no, it was always supposed to be this way. They like it. It's meant to be, like, so just be careful who you tell your secrets.
This is your safe space. You can tell us.
You can tell us. We won't tell anyone else. But I was like, Mom, I'm not telling you about my sewing woes ever again.
Still, you have to learn as well. If anybody compliments you, you don't say, oh yeah, but this is a bit wrong, or that is a bit wrong.
Learning how to accept the thank you. Yeah.
It's true. It's quite hard.
It is. I'm still working on it. Another thing that I heard somebody say this weekend, which I thought was very insightful, instead of saying sorry all the time, I know that I have a tendency to do this. I know other people do, like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Like apologizing for everything. Try instead to change that to thank you. Thank you for waiting. Thank you so much for being patient. Instead of saying, oh, I'm sorry it took so long. Thank you so much for being patient. It really changes kind of how you show up and comes from a place of gratitude instead of apologizing or self-deprecating. Which doesn't necessarily pertain to sewing, but I just thought that was a really interesting insight.
I think it's in England, in the UK, people like to say thank you a lot. So it's like, well, you say sorry a lot when you say thank you a lot as well. Every time you meet somebody on the street, you say sorry. But it's nice. I was going to talk about thing, and I wonder whether you were the same, Trisha, with professional projects. And there were sort of certain projects, when I approached them, I could see, this is going to be really tricky and a lot of work and maybe quite painful trying to figure it out. It's really going to stretch me, but the outcome at the end is going to be amazing. So these are the projects which, not my favorite, but because there's some projects you get them and you think, yeah, that's going to be fantastic. I know exactly what to do. That's my favorite. Yeah. But the puzzling out, if you know the end, is going to be great. That's not too bad. And the worst one is if you get a client who either doesn't know what they want, and then you're always catching up, which is a real pain.
Or can't verbalize or draw what they want, and you have to read their mind, which happens in
I think that's sort of like related, isn't it? Quite often, they're not actually sure, and then you do something, and that's not quite right, and when you're trying to work it out, that's always my worst project. Or projects that people go in with completely unreasonable expectations, and when you're constantly trying to manage them, but also, of course, well, nowadays I'm quite ruthless, but when you're starting out and you're trying to, be everything to everybody, like trying to actually say no or saying that doesn't work is really hard. And then the outcome isn't that great because you couldn't give it.
In my world, we just say that that's difficult tax. So you hope you include that in your cost of what you've quoted them to have to deal with.
But of course, again, you learn through practicing and stuff.
For sure.
Different clients. And we were actually planning to show you some pictures, but we can't quite work. It basically
we wanted to show you guys some pictures because I have some crazy stuff that was a pain in the butt to do that I wanted to show you guys.
And I was going to show you some stuff with some beautiful hand stitching, which at the time was really painful, but it was worth it in the end. So I might just put it on my feed, on my stories. Yes, but again, this is more chatty. It's more fun. It's not it's not a proper, like we have both tutorials which are instructional and where we do deep dives like the Vionette and lots of stuff you do, like your Tricky Thursdays. But this is really more about joining in with everybody.
Just kind of communicating.
And I was going to say something like with cutting out. One thing, it is really painful, and I know it can take for ages. What I would say, I think we talked about it a little bit last time, but things like some people love it, and if you love it, that's fine. But if you don't, instead of, for example, doing thread markings, you can use pins. So you use a pen, Trisha, have I got that right?
For marking like notches and things, I usually use a chalk.
Yes, I've got chalk as well, and some people use pens as well.
Yeah, there's
But
like
think
the friction pens or the blue pens that are quite popular. I'm not a big fan of pens or washable markers even. But I'm trying to find it right now. I like it's a chalk pencil. This is what I usually use.
about
Those are nice too. I call those, I have one, I don't know if I have one here.
like a chalk wheel.
Like a
Actually, to
chalk
really.
wheel, yeah. I use mine look more like a lipstick.
Ooh,
And I get those in different colors, but those are my favorite
yeah.
markings.
You can just brush it out. Yeah,
Right,
no, I
because you
like.
can brush it off, and this has like a little eraser as well. And the cool thing about this is it's got multiple colors, so you can
Oh,
change
you
the
can swap
color.
around.
Yeah, it's like
That's
and I think Clover has one, which they were a sponsor for Pattern Con, so I'm going to plug them. But yeah, it's called like a chalk marking tool, but they're really great. They're usually in the quilting section, but I find this to be the most.
Yeah, I think Clover does one of these as well, and they come in different colors, but of course
Mhm.
you can only have one in each color. And I think with
Right.
pen is probably even better. I'm gonna have a look for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to tell you the truth, about 99% of the time I just pin or I do a little snip. So again, it's sort of thinking about things like shortcuts. If you don't mind the thread stitching, do it.
I would tell you too. I have been a brand ambassador, and I just received like my Sew Tights cutting mat, which is magnets that you put
Oh
down
yes.
with rotary. I love it. We did have some in the classrooms at Pattern Con, and all the teachers actually got to take a system home. And that is really, really nice and speeds up the cutting process. As long as you can fit it onto the cutting surface that you have. But it's really, really wonderful and sped up things. You know, rotary, moving to the rotary for me was a big like thing that helped me with cutting and be more accurate with cutting. But I know not everybody is into the rotary cutter, but I find it extremely helpful for cutting and cutting things out.
Yeah, I think especially with you where you're cutting loads and it's in kind of in knits as well.
And I know
perfect.
that a lot of people like those, and I have a electric rotary cutter, which I was always nervous about, like doing tight corners and things. So I never quite got the hang of it, but I did have a stitcher who used to work for me who was very much an adamant for those, because when you're cutting out 150 shirts for Blue Bag Group, you're looking for the fastest way to cut those out. But that, and I've always wanted to try those electronic scissors. I haven't tried those, but those seem to like speed up the cutting process. But
Yeah, I know that.
anything has a learning curve, you know?
Yes. And I think the problem is all what you have to think if you're cutting out one garment a month or something.
Yeah.
Then, just go with what's easiest. But it's like, yeah, if you're cutting out 100, that's why you get these like electric ones and you'd layer 20 thick. But for a lot of us,
yeah.
for you, the space you have as well, isn't it? And things like that.
A big table is also like, if you're still cutting on the floor, I'm sorry, your knees, I'm sorry for your knees and your back.
And your back.
Yes, if you can get a big, like that is probably my most favorite part about my shop setup is my big table.
And standing height as well.
It's to be taller too, so you're not bending over.
Height,
it makes a big difference, and it saves a lot of time. And even, before I had like my nice ones that are custom made, I got a fold out table from Walmart, like a camping table, like a little $20. It wasn't the best, but at least it was a tall, flat surface. Like if you can do that.
And actually IKEA. They
have some great stuff.
I think get two of them together, but they get the adjustable height. So I use mine both for sitting down. But it's also like better again, make something, if you're standing, you can always lean over. Because I notice it, because you probably might have the same when you're filming yourself all the time. You sometimes suddenly realize because you're sitting down, you can't lean over. Sometimes your lines go wrong because you literally can't see what you're doing when you're sitting down. Right. And if you're standing up, you always have like a more bird's eye vision, so it's much better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes, and Sue is agreeing. This big tall tables are amazing. I agree, Sue. And if you haven't got the space, also fold down. One of the pattern cutters I worked with, living in London, nobody has any space. It's like New York.
Like a
but she had like a
fold
down table which went up, and then you can use it as
that's a great idea.
board.
Yeah.
And that works really well if you only have a small space and you want to maximize it.
Yeah, for sure. I know space is always a thing. But I mean, I've used, and I know a lot of people have used like the kitchen counter, things like that, if you can find like a bigger space.
I think again,
Um,
the worst about the floor as well is I think it always slips more and you're more likely to actually push it out of the way. But on a table, it's sort of more secured.
mhm.
Yeah, it's always like, oh, I think it's painful for your body and also like not
And
that secure.
I will tell you, as far as ironing yards and yards, one little thing that I learned from going to a university here in North Carolina, actually. And so it's again space that you'll need, but I've actually had my own iron table built for me. And I took the idea from the university's the university class that I was taking. But their ironing table was 36 inches wide, so a yard wide, and or maybe a couple, what is it? I'm gonna mess this up, the dimensions, but it's like it's so that basically it's a big rectangle so that I can iron a yard at a time, and then they put, which I don't have on mine, but they put like a fabric catch off the edge of the table so that it wasn't just falling onto the floor after you've just ironed this, like it could go into like a little fabric hammock, if you will. And that definitely helped a lot. If you have like, you have a little ironing board and then your yard of fabric is like this big. So if you can like take a table and cover it with we just covered it with some batting and some muslin, and I re-cover it every so often if it gets like burnt and stuff, and that
Yeah,
helps
the
a
thing
lot.
is, ironing boards come in different sizes and also
Yeah.
elevation as well. 'Cause I used to have a normal one, and then I discovered in the shop a massive one, which also goes higher. So it's actually, but again, I think it's over a yard wide, and it's really
I think
deep.
mine's a yard deep and like like
More than
like
a yard.
4 feet wide or something. I'd have to
Yeah.
look again at what it
Yeah,
is.
because it makes a difference because I can literally do the fabric a bit more or less, and
Yeah,
it's like so
yeah.
it's nice. And also getting it really high, I like my life. So it's much easier. So I think that makes all the difference with stuff like that, because it's sort of jobs you can avoid. You can say no to people saying, "Can you hem my trousers?" You still have to hem your own, but you can say no. But when you make your own clothes, the cutting out you can't ever avoid
Yeah, you got to
if you
do
make
that.
it yourself.
Somebody's got to do it. I used to make my interns do
Yes,
it, but then
I know.
again, I'm like, I'm like, here's exactly what I need cut, and you have to be okay with it. You have to have some extra direction because cutting can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Carolyn's asking, do the sew tight magnets work best with galvanized steel under your cutting mat? I have not tried that. They have their own mats and their mats are really nice. Let me see if I could show you. Like they have the
Yeah,
grid on it and everything, and the metal is inside.
and it's a nice color as well.
And these are like the magnets, and they also come with like a big quilting ruler with magnets as well that can hold down. So I haven't tried these. I would imagine that they would work with steel underneath as well, but I have not tried that. And they just came out with one that's 48 inches long by 36, so it's a little bit easier for cutting garments. Because originally I
Oh yeah,
think,
that's a really good size, isn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, it's a good size. Not necessarily for us tall people, but it works for smaller projects. Talking about tables, I just bought an adjustable bed risers for my fold-out poker table, and it's a game changer. Absolutely, getting those risers, or somehow lifting it up so that you're not bending down so much. It will save you so much energy and save your back, and it'll make it easier to keep going. So
And I
for so
also
many
think
things,
if
cutting
you
piecings, you
work
name
for
it.
longer when you're standing up, and you can go from all sides, you're more you're less like when you're sitting down, you don't want to get up. If you're standing anyway, you're always moving around, and you're cutting out, you move around the table fast and stuff.
And I'll
Um,
say, my cutting tables are not just for cutting. Therefore, just as we were just talking about, they were Celeste was saying, it's also for when I like to sew something together, especially when you're making your own patterns, it doesn't come with instructions. So what I like to do is I like to lay out the pieces as they're going to go together to create the garment. That really helps me with sewing order, with how much. So laying out my project so I can like see which pieces make the most sense to come together, and just utilizing it as a space for staging.
If you're doing trousers or top, like laying everything, like how it's going to look at the end, so you don't end up with two right
missing
sides
a
or two left
spot.
sides.
Actually, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with a big
Yeah,
table.
big table has to be like the best thing, even if you have to put it down to put it out of the way.
And if you can only get a high table rather than an adjustable one, you get a higher chair, basically like a bar stool with a back. So that works as well.
Oh, cool. Lisa Kay says that hubby built her a large iron table and it was a game changer. Yeah, once I saw that at class, I was like, oh yes, I need this in my life. Oh, good. Hi, Sue. Nice to see you. For ironing table, do you miss having the narrow end? So yes, sometimes it is hard to not have that narrow end if you have the big flat table, but that's where like your sleeve board come in handy, and like your pressing tools are really a little bit more needed when you don't have that narrow end. And I don't miss it because I have those things. Sue says I got a table from Joann's and it was amazing. Oh, wonderful. And yes, Bertab, but I think, was your name Ramona? We celebrated her birthday at PatternCon and sang her happy birthday, and she was saying thank you. It was so great that you chose for her to celebrate your birthday with us there. It was so amazing. Yeah, I have a sleeve board for that. Exactly. Table number 10. Yes. So I love that they're connecting in the chat. What do you use as an ironing base, if not the ironing board? For the base of it, for the base of mine, it was Berta. That's what it was. Roberta, right? Or Roberta, our birthday girl. I used, it was a wooden table that I had built, and then I covered it with batting and then muslin, and then staple gunned it.
I've also seen people just use a really thick layer of felting.
A thick layer of felting between the muslin
like
and
a really
wood.
thick wool felt.
Yeah.
Because I think that also absorbs the heat, so it works really well felt. It's quite expensive, so it's really cheaper to do batting.
And Berta's saying that she misses us. Oh, we miss you too, Roberta. You got to come back next year. We got to continue the pattern, or come join us in the pattern place. Question: your ironing table has batting. What about using a wool blanket with the cover? So I think that's what you were just saying, Charlotta.
Yes, yeah, but not even wool blanket, but like, how you can get different, like full felt. You can get really thick one, which is basically like paper. And people use that as an ironing surface, but it's quite expensive. So actually a wool blanket, you know what you could do with your wool blanket? If you only going to use it for ironing, put it in a hot machine wash. So it really shrinks
up. It felts even more. Yeah. That makes sense.
I was thinking normally try to avoid. So you could use that work really well.
Oh my gosh, how is it already almost 4:00?
Oh yes, no.
Where does the time go when we hang out, you guys? Like it literally just flies away. So I want to just give a couple of quick things. So definitely cutting is my least favorite job. As far as like what kind of garments to sew, I might make some people mad with this one. I hate sewing dresses. And especially like big gowns, and I'll tell you why. Anything that's voluminous with lots of fabric, it's just like so much fabric to have to carry around everywhere. That's why I really love, my favorite things to sew are pants. Really, I would rather do a corset or like a very detailed blazer or vest than to sew a dress. That's just me personally.
Yeah, actually I love little things. There's lots of pieces. It's quite, it's really
it's like fun. Puzzle, and then gathering is not my favorite. So like doing ruffles for days, I'm like, oh. Gathering and like tutus, like making tutus where you have to just gather like days and days of tulle.
Right. And also you actually still have to concentrate, isn't it? Because if you don't sew straight, it's like, it's not like with some certain sewing shops, like if you're like stitch just lengths together. You can sort of go to autopilot. But I
Right.
always think, especially with netting, it's actually you have to keep an eye on it because it
But
can
I will
suddenly.
tell you, with gathering, which I do absolutely hate doing, is okay, because Sue's saying she needs to talk about a corset for a friend. Um, is to do the zigzag method, which I believe I have a Tricky Thursday on. If I don't, I need to
Oh,
create another
with
one.
something in between, like a
Right.
floss.
Like I really like to use fishing line.
Oh, yeah.
I know dental floss. Some people use yarn. I feel like yarn's a little bit too fuzzy for me. I can catch it too easily.
Yeah,
But
so that'll snap sooner or
the
later.
fishing line, or like, and you just zigzag over it instead of doing, if you have a lot of gathering to do, I would highly recommend going with one of those methods as opposed to the gathering, the
Yeah,
basting stitches
pulling
that you
it because
pull,
again, it'll snap.
because then it snaps and you're like, ah! It's like the worst thing. Miles and miles of a rolled hem, Lisa Kay says, yes, for sure. And
Oh,
finishing, we were
I
talking about
love doing
finishing in
rolled hems.
buttonholes.
Sorry, rolled hems I love doing, but that's just because I did my whole degree was hundreds of meters,
Oh.
so I like doing that. I
um
love binding. Oh, so that's like
And I'll have to say, like, I'm trying to think of normal sewing things because in the costume world, like, I've been asked to make the most ridiculous things, and it's because of my knowledge in pattern making. I just say yes. Do I know how to figure it out? Do I know how to do it when they ask me? Absolutely not. But I know that with the knowledge that I have with pattern making and the things that I've tried in the past, that I'm going to be able to do it. So but a lot of times, just because you're able to do it does not mean it's fun to do. Figuring it out is the fun part. Like when we made these upside down monkeys that had to look like their coats were blowing in the wind, it was a whole thing. There was a whole structure built on the inside, which meant there was a lot of hand sewing. My friends who don't like hand sewing, try hand sewing through super thick, like, upholstery fabric and making it look like, and lots of it, like it was a lot of hand sewing. So I've had to do some really weird stuff and work with some, like, neoprene, never fun to sew on, never, because
I was gonna say there's certain fabrics which just take the joy.
you have to, like, set your tension just right. And so if you are in the costume world, like I am, fake fur, Sherry, yeah, she knows, she makes costumes too. Fake fur isn't fun either. But neoprene, if you do have to work with neoprene, I would highly suggest setting a machine that is just for neoprene, because the tension needs to be figured out. But once you figure it out, it's good, and the thickness of neoprene will depend on how you have to have the setting. But then don't use that machine for anything else throughout the rest of the project, because it's not going to like anything else you put on it. So, like, trying to find the machine that does the neoprene the best, that is one thing.
The worst ones are fabrics where it's a fabric you think should behave nicely, and you got to get it either cut out on machine, and it just starts being horrible.
Yes, or things that fray like crazy.
Cottons. Yeah, or suddenly, or they either crease suddenly, or they show. Sometimes you saw fabrics and they show every single mark, and you can't iron it out. And yeah, that's what I hate.
Like
And
lame fabric, not my favorite, because you hit one strip of lame and it takes it out of the whole. Ugh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, like a silk does it. I mean, you haven't got the right needles. But I was even thinking there's some fabric and you stitch it. When you are easing it in, and with some fabrics you can fudge it a bit and you can steam it out afterwards.
Right.
There are certain fabrics,
like synthetics.
You order them, and yes, I think if it's a cotton with a synthetic content. That's the sort of polycotton.
Yeah, you can't steam it out. It shows every wrinkle. Yes. Yeah. And I will say,
they don't always tell you. They just call it a cotton, and when you have it, you think, yeah, that wasn't a cotton, it was
there
polyester.
Was something else, yeah. I will say with fraying fabrics, like, there's some really beautiful fabrics that you're like, oh, this is going to be nice and lovely. And you start working with it and it just starts fraying on you like crazy. So with that, with silks, with anything, when I am cutting out, here's a pro tip that will help you. When I'm cutting out those kinds of fabrics, I try to use this is a pinking shear. So if you're a rotary fan, it's a pinking shear rotary. So I can weight it down and it won't wiggle all over on me, and then I can pink it out. Now these tend to dull very quickly, so they're not the most efficient, or you can use the pinking shears as well. That will help help things fray, to make it a little less, frustrating when you're working on stuff.
And always stitching into the fabric rather than out, when you have an angle.
Yeah.
Because if you fray something, you stitch out of it, it's just
going to it'll cause more. Yeah, true. Very true.
So no, I agree with it. Yes, not fun.
Well, thanks you guys so much for sharing your least favorite things. Hopefully we've with our hive mind figured out some things that might help you with your next projects. And
we basically all agreed we don't like cutting out.
We've all agreed that we need to just have little elves or the mice from Cinderella come and cut everything else for us. And I will say with cutting out, even though it's my least favorite thing, trying to do things in mode. So if you have a couple of projects that you want to do, and if you can do batch cutting, then when you go back into sew, then you just have everything cut and ready to go for you. Cut out all of your lining and your inner facings and your outer and all of it all at once.
Yeah, definitely the cutting session. Or sometimes if I know I'm sort of have 3 or 4 projects, then I cut everything out and just have it in the envelopes.
Yep.
And you can just then go onto a sewing table and spend a few days just sewing rather than having to constantly go back and forth.
Yeah. And just a reminder before we sign off that we do have my pre-sale happening next week. It's actually happening next week for my private online membership. You have to be on the wait list to get access to that. There's special discounts that we don't offer later when we open the doors to everyone. So if you are interested in getting more support from me, and we also have other teachers, other subjects, it's a whole robust community in addition to live events that happen every month. Get on the wait list. That is located down below in my description. We'd love to have you join us in our virtual pattern party we actually, it's the only way that I can give advice on what you are actually working on. This isn't general hey, this is what we do have that general advice, but that's what's great about the community is you can say, hey, I'm working on this thing and this is how it fits and what's wrong with it. And then I can actually give advice or direct you to a video that can help you with that.
And actually, I think we're quite similar. I absolutely love that part of my community. I know everybody and we work on specific projects. We see it from the beginning to the end. You get to know people. And it's a really safe place again, because here we say it's safe to tell you your secrets, but it is public, isn't it? Well, what's nice about private communities, you can work on your projects. It's a safe place to share. And yes, and you can also join my wait list for my membership, which is in the community. And we're not doing I don't do big boot camps. I'm not as amazing as Trisha. But we're going to work at bodice blocks and making them and fitting them. And it's a new method I'm trying and sharing with people for bigger busts. So that'd be quite interesting.
Nice.
Which works for all bust
Always
sizes.
helpful, yeah.
And then maybe bias dresses are going to be later in the autumn.
Fun.
Jackets and coats. And it's a vintage. Trisha's background is costume and being fantastic and thinking and doing amazing things. And my background is fashion design with a focus on vintage. So if you love all this,
she does some really beautiful vintage stuff. And I love the way, if you guys just want to pattern nerd out, go and check out Charlotta's analyzing the pattern, which is the first thing that you need to do when you go into So, and if you're new to us, we try to do this once a month. So usually towards the end of the month. I don't think we've talked about
no, we're not. I think we said no September.
No September for both of us because we're both really swamped. But maybe November. So do stay tuned. You can follow us both on Instagram as well. We hang out there a lot, and we try to inform. We try to inform you guys when we do this, but it's just it's a lot like this. We pick a topic, we chat, we like to hear from you all, and it's always really helpful.
And of course, if you ever think of a topic you think would be fantastic, do let us know as well.
Yeah, reach out to us. We like to hear from you. Yes. We are definitely in this community. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you